Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, folks. It's V the Gorilla coming to you live on this edition of Rogue ESW, Rogue Exit Strategy World. And we have with us the two guys. We got Cowboy maintaining the airwaves, and we have the one and only EM Burlingame. EM is here. If you missed yesterday's special broadcast that EM and Velas and Ben and Cowboy and myself have done, go back and listen to it. Go check it out. A lot of chock full of heavy information, folks. And EM is back with us again this morning to break down the latest of everything that's going on, but also most importantly where we are and the hard choices that are ahead as a civilization, or this thin veneer that we call civilization, starts to crack and break. So EM, good morning, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. And you?
I'm hanging in there, man. I'm just still digesting and processing everything that's occurred in the last 24 hours. It's incredible to see. Trying to get a pulse as to where the country is right now, man.
Yeah. Yep. We were talking right before you came on, V, and EM, you've got some new work coming out. It was the targeting of Charlie Kirk and the war for the American male. So I figured that title is very enticing, if you will. So tell us about that a little bit, if you could.
Yeah, I put it out on Substack and X just this morning, not too long before we came on. In unconventional warfare, right? Yeah. Late stage insurgency, when you're going from stage 5, which is build up to phase, stage 6, which is civil war has become hot war. Whether it's a low-grade hot civil war or an all-out civil war. When you're making that transition, as you're making that transition, you've been, demoralizing the young men, the system, the regime, and you're giving your insurgents, your guerrillas, auxiliary, underground, etc., confidence targets, and you're taking out, the first voices you want to take out are the moderate voices. You want to take out people that have, that are keeping the young men of the land, of the country you're trying to overthrow. They're keeping them in a place of calm, mellow logic, because you want to fight. You want to kill them. You want to remove them from the land. You need them in a place of radicalization. And you want to get as many of them on your side as you can by demoralizing them, giving them a lack of hope that, that there's anything worth fighting for in the, the current system. And so you want to bring them over to the guerrilla side or the auxiliary underground. So striking Charlie Kirk was, specifically to remove the one guy who was connecting with young men, who was saying, and who was always calm no matter what was thrown at him, and was teaching young men to be calm, logical, and moderate.
Yeah.
And so they had to kill him, and they had to kill him publicly. And they had to do it for two reasons. One is to demoralize young men, to get young men into a place where they believe that the only radical action is possible of overcoming this, turning things around and building what comes next. And you want to demoralize young men such that they stay out of the fight altogether and they just check out and they don't get involved. And then on your side, all of the resentful factions, crazies, insanes, you want to give them confidence that they're going to win. And you want to, confidence targets, right? You want to take out some of the bigs on the other side, and you want to show it publicly so that it's possible, it can be done. And you want to, through that, incentivize the crazies to go broaden that and expand upon that. You don't want to give them instruction or guidance, right? Because then, you don't have plausible deniability, et cetera. But you want to incentivize the crazy to do more killing.
That makes sense. I mean, when you looked at the 2020 Summer of Love, where there was so much love, as $2.5 billion worth of damage with
confidence targets
across. Yeah.
Yeah, it's confidence targets. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
go ahead.
And all they were doing is just showing up, handing out pre-made signs to these quote-unquote protesters, and then just letting them loose and letting them, do whatever the hell they the demented far leftist ideologue mentally retarded mind doesn't need much coaxing in order for it to be as destructive as possible. And yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They will do further killings.
Yeah. So what was 2020's? What was 2020? That was those are called confidence targets, and that is you let them go hit things and burn things and rage, and then they get away with it. It's the bigger confidence, right? The confidence target for this type of insurgency isn't more and go out, do a targeted strike, kill somebody, take something out, go back, feel good about yourself because you succeeded getting in and off the objective and all that kind of stuff. In this case, it's you can be radical and go burn things down, and the judicial system and the legal system is going to let you be off scot-free.
Yeah.
Most of the
that,
right. So other than the random assassinations, et cetera, really the professionals want to handle the big ones, right? They don't want the random crazy. Now every once in a while, et cetera, but these types of fights are back and forth, tit for tat, right? Strategic strikes, but lower level stuff, and they don't want to, they want to hide their targeted stuff inside of a broader chaos, but they don't want that broader chaos to get out of control, because sometimes in history it comes for them.
Yes.
Yeah. The what is it? The thirst of the guillotine cannot be quenched.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw that kind of thing, and it was clearly organized, was when Trump won the first time, and the night that I think it was inauguration.
Mm-hmm.
They had these kids running around in Washington D.C., and they were wearing red and black, and I'd never seen this before, and I could tell they were scared, right? And somebody and it was a very professional camera that was following these kids around. It was like they were doing it for the news practically, and these kids are running around breaking windows, but you could see that they were very furtive.
Yeah.
And because you hadn't seen this yet, we hadn't seen the Antifa thing yet.
Yeah.
And so that's, you're using the term confidence target, and they didn't have any confidence at that point.
Correct.
But sure as shit, they got it not too long later, didn't they?
Yeah. Well, that's what's been happening with all these criminal cases for murders and killings and getting out and no bail and all of that. All of that stuff is not, some liberal touchy-feely. No. This is what it's doing, is it's been steadily giving the violent criminal cast and the violently insane cast the confidence that they can go do their worst and they're going to get off free. Give them confidence that they're going to get through the system. So this has been going on for a decade steadily. That's what that's about. It's not, yes, you get some idiot liberal, quote unquote liberal, because nothing that's happening is liberal, right? Classical liberal, right? But this is insurgency stuff. And give me a second. They have been, yes. So yes, you get some of the feel-good, touchy-feely kinds of people who are just morons who participate in this, but really what's driving it is people who have been giving this violent cast, this violent elements of our communities, the confidence that they can act with impunity.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. They brought in they put in a bunch of judges and DAs that won't prosecute.
Well, they'll prosecute if you're Daniel Penny.
Yeah, they won't prosecute, those people. They won't prosecute the Pantifa types.
Yeah.
And this is why you probably got a guy who got let out 14 times so he could, slit the throat of some Ukrainian girl on a train,
Correct.
Because he knows that nothing's going to happen to him. He's going to spend a few weeks in the puzzle factory.
Yeah. So this will, the elites, so people need to understand that what we're engaged in right now is an oligarch war.
Yes, that's correct. It's a factional oligarchical war.
It's a factional oligarch war. You're absolutely right. And the regime has factions in it, the bureaucratic managerial state, the financialists, the banks and the financial institutions. But what we are engaged in, or what we are all experiencing is a better term, is an oligarch war. And oligarch wars are fought differently. Now, they can sometimes shape up into state wars, kingdom, principality, state war. And that might yet happen. That's, what happened in Spain. And I think people really need to look at the Spanish Civil War as, the closest possible pathway for us here. I don't, it might go the path of Iraq, but it would sure take a whole lot of people like us doing stupid shit like we were doing there that made that happen. Right. But more than likely, this oligarch war that we're all now engaged in fully, publicly, right? It was one thing to try and kill the president, to assassinate Charlie Kirk on a university campus.
Yeah.
As a moderate, right? Moderate voice, reaching young men, teaching young men how to think. That's a open declaration of war. And what happened the night before? Israel struck Qatar.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So this is an oligarch war. How it's going to play out is not like people think. They're going to keep it simmering. They're going to do hot spots. They're going to pop things up here and there as necessary. They're going to get people riled up to go do stupid stuff and violent stuff to drive an agenda and a narrative, et cetera, and get fear and radicalize the young men and try and get as many of the young men on their side as they can, right?
Mm-hmm.
Inside of that, they're going to hide assassinations and all of those, targeted, specific, very well done assassinations, et cetera, as the oligarchs who can't provide security for all of the people, the Charlie Kirks and others of the world. You can't provide total coverage and protection for them. So the oligarchs, the resentfuls, financialist oligarchs are going to be doing targeted assassinations to remove, the voices and guidance and leadership necessary for, keeping the people calm, keeping the people, secure, keeping the people, from going insane and going to all out violence, because they're not quite ready yet. They need to radicalize, I think I wrote this yesterday or the day before. I think it was a couple of days ago, actually, but the model, and James Lindsay talks this, and I know people are all pissed, et cetera, about him, but he's not wrong in his core message that, I spoke to him about probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago, but we are coming to the end of the Marxist push. And so this oligarch war will expend the Marxist assets, the crazies, the violent crazies.
Yeah.
And it will expend them in a control, but an orgy of violence, like the poor young lady that was killed on the train, right? But all of those Marxist ones are expendable. They have to be killed. That's exactly how the Nazis, the National Socialists, rose to power in Germany. And what was the first thing they did? They burned up the Marxists, and then they put them in camps. And then the National Socialists were in power. And then the National Socialists, now that disgust had been driven into all the young men and the people of Germany, then the National Socialists built out and they expanded upon what they were doing till they had total and absolute control. It's the same people behind this. The Fourth Reich is it's literally the people, the descendants. And I don't mean hyperbole. I mean the sons and grandsons and daughters and granddaughters of the very people. And all people got to do is look at all of the named operations: Sunrise, Gladio, Paperclip, et cetera, 100 some odd named operations, a whole bunch of unnamed operations where we brought the National Socialists directly into our own governments here in Europe. Paperclip, Sunrise, Gladio. Sunrise is bringing Major General Galen, who was the head of Nazi intelligence for all of the Eastern Front, and stood him up with the CIA, with Galen Organization, Gehlen. People can go look it up. And then in 1952, I think, they made him head of German intelligence, the BDU, right? The inaugural German intelligence. So Europe's head, the continental Europe's leading intelligence organization has been headed by a Nazi from its inception.
Look at also like who set up Homeland Security, Marcus Wolf. He was a Stasi. He was a East German Stasi.
Yeah.
Yeah, or look who was heading up NASA for so many years.
Werner von Braun.
Von Braun.
How many tens of thousands of people, slave labor, died in the rocket factories?
Yep.
So, we are in an oligarch war. What we are also in is in a transition phase between the push for Marxism. Now there'll be the push for national ethno-nationalism. My words are backwards. You kept me up too late, V, last night. But that's the pattern, right? And for that, give me a second. That's why they killed Charlie Kirk, because in order to make the drive towards ethno-nationalism, you have to have young men demoralized with where things are, and you need them in a place of disgust, and you need to have the moderate voices gone because you want to radicalize the young men to go slaughter in great numbers, but really to die in even bigger numbers, just like Ukraine. Over 100,000 dead Russians, almost 2 million dead Ukrainians.
Right.
And that's what they want. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I interrupted you, but do you think they can pull that off here? Because we're not a homogenous nation. Like, Germany was relatively homogenous. I mean, it's a little different in Europe. You're going to have a lot of different cultures sometimes, but I think compared to us now, Germany was pretty homogenous. I think if you're going to boil it down to race here in the U.S., I think white.
It won't be race-based. Yeah, it won't be race-based. It'll be culture, land, community. It's all of the
affinity.
I'm watching it. I'm seeing all this Nazi stuff pop up, all this anti-Semitic stuff pop up in clever and not so clever ways. I'm listening to some young men who are very, very intelligent young men. They're saying it themselves. Steph Boyd, Uber Boyo in Ireland, and Rudyard at What If Alt Hist here in the United States, two of the brightest minds of that younger generation, the older Gen Z, I think. Older Gen Z are very young millennials. I don't remember what they are, but these are two great minds of their time, young men. And where are they? They watch their shows, watch their narrative change. Now, I'm not saying these guys are National Socialists at all, right? But Roger did a show called the Incel Revolution about a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's spot on. So you don't do,
is it why when you talk about the Incel Revolution, you have also the rise of that guy? What's the kid's name? Nick Fuentes.
Yeah. I've heard his name. I've never really knew. I mean, I knew who Charlie Kirk was, of course. Yeah. I've seen a couple snippets, but I've never really, it's not my age cohort. Right. I'm closer to Hunter S. Thompson. Little reference from the past.
Yeah.
And I'm not that close to that, but you know what I mean? I'm just different age cohort. But that's, the intent, what they do is it doesn't start as ethno-nationalism. What it is now is the counter-trans. That's why everything you see, like they labeled this guy trans, but I might not seen something this morning that there was a private jet that flew a certain.
I heard about that. There was a private jet that literally took off within 20, 30 minutes after the shooting occurred. Yeah. Turned off his transponder and
came back an hour later.
Came back 45 minutes later.
45, yeah.
So it's like, what the hell was that all about?
Yeah.
And landed back in that area where not too far from the university. So it's like, there's all sorts of. You see the video of the rooftop? You see a guy running the rooftop, full tactical gear, looks like, and he's laying on top of the roof. There are videos of kids saying, "Oh, look, there's somebody on the rooftop. I hope Charlie will be okay. I hope nothing happens."
Oh, it's Butler all over again.
It is 100%.
It's literally Butler all over again. So I'm interested to see what John Cullen's autistic mind does with it. I'm sure he and I will talk about it at some point. But give me a second. So to your question, Nick, what they do is they discuss stuff first, so they go after the trans. That's why they created the trans stuff. The other piece of why they created the trans stuff is because, again, testosterone downregulates for violence, estrogen upregulates for violence. If you want violent males who are insane kind of violent, uncontrolled kind of violent, you up the estrogen in their bodies.
Correct.
Right? And you get some kind of coordinated, organized ideology that they're a part of, as crazy as they are, but you give them some kind of ideology that they're willing to fight and kill for.
Oh,
Trans.
we talked about this yesterday on the Cuss with Gus, and my theory on this is because there was a story that came out, and it was Ian Miles Cheong actually put it out on X, where this girl wanted to transition, and it was in one of those like super communist areas, Minnesota, one of those. The school, the doctors, everybody was encouraging her. She wanted it, but the mom was like, "No, you're not doing that."
Yeah.
And once the she said, "Look, you might be a lesbian, but you're not."
Yeah.
So what they do is they find very young people, and they get into their heads before they have the ability to think for themselves, which I consider mental mental grape, because we can't say the R word on YouTube.
They tried it to my daughter in San Francisco in public school. Yes, when we came back from Japan, because she started school in Japan. When we came back from Japan, within, I think, would have been about 5 years, 4 or 5 years later. So she was in, I think, 6th grade. They were pushing hard in San Francisco schools. And she was in a Montessori school, but it was still, the city controls the curriculum and all that.
Yeah.
And she called me one day and said, "I'm gender fluid or something."
Oh my God.
And this and that. And I told her, "No, you're not." I said, "You might be a lesbian, but you're not gender fluid. It doesn't exist." And, I had this whole conversation with her calmly and et cetera. And she got angry with me. She was like 12, 11. I think she was 11. She got furious with me, right? Because and she's like, "My friend studies this." I was like, "How old's your friend?" She's like, 11. I was like, "What the hell's your friend know? I literally study brains, right? And identity and how brains and behavioral pattern, all this." It's like, anyways. So there's a moral of the story here, right? And to your point, Nick, right? Okay. Her mother and her godmother kept her from me for 2 years because I wasn't being understanding enough. I wasn't, et cetera. My daughter and I were texting like the next day. Everything was fine, right? Or 2 days later. You know what happened the next day? The day after that conversation? She had her first menstrual cycle.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we had our first PMS conversation, and neither one of us knew that that's what was actually going on. Right?
But God forbid you leave that in other people's hands, and they're like, "Oh no, you definitely are. You definitely
correct."
Are.
Well, and that's okay. So what happened was I did that, and I knew I was going to take heat for it. I knew I was going to get hit for it. I knew that they were going to punish me for it, right? But I made sure my daughter knew, and I stood the line as a father and firm. Well, guess what? Within months, she was like, "No, I'm a girl. I like boys," and the boy stuff figured out later, et cetera. Well, they kept working on her. I'm not the parent, not her. No, I want to be clear. Her mother and godmother were never promoting that, none of that, right? So I don't want to imply that at all. But they were just trying to be understanding and open and, woman bullshit.
Yeah, female.
Estrogen bullshit. But the good kind, not the devouring kind, right? They were actually, so anyways, point being is
what they're doing.
They tried to do it with my own daughter, and then they continued. Because once they'd lost that fight, then they go for the whole lesbian and bisexual part. And they've been pushing it. And now I got the teen kids, now she's years older, right? 5 years older or so, 6 years older. And I got the other teen kids. And sometimes they'll be sitting here around the table and they're like, "Yeah, all this gender shit is bullshit." They're like, "Why do I want to base my sense of value off my sexuality and my gender?"
Yeah, so
kids are 16, 17, 15, 16, 17 years old, and they're already like, "This is bullshit." And we're in Idaho, and there's did you see what happened, Nick, last night?
No.
There was a Charlie Kirk vigil down at the Capitol. A BLM dude drove right into it. Said, "Fuck Charlie Kirk." And
Are you kidding me?
no,
Like
dead
he
serious.
drove
Right
into
here in
it,
Boise, Idaho. Yeah,
into the people with his car.
I don't think he hit him. I think he drove into the crowd, said, or whoever it was, and there's video of it. It's out there. Yeah. So I mean, the point I'm getting at is people need to realize this cancer, this malignant evil that we are going to have to root out, and it's going to be violent.
So
right? It's even here, though, is what I'm getting at. It's everywhere.
Yeah, so you can see how hard they're working on the kids to try to get them to become trans, right? Or whatever. And so
they're moving beyond that now. They've got enough of that. Now what they're going to do is they want to go the other way, and they want to radicalize them with disgust. So they go and fight the trans, and they go and root out the gays. And because give me a second. For the Reich, the undesirables list has never changed.
Mm-hmm.
Who's on that undesirables list is exactly the same. These are the eugenicists that go back over a century, right? Century and a half.
Right.
Okay. Their undesirables list is never changed. The problem is they don't have the young men necessary to go slaughter, and they don't have the populace in the frame of mind and condition to go slaughter all of those people. It's what's happening in the United Kingdom right now with everything they're doing, the rape gangs and everything else, and pulling all those people into the country is specifically being done so that they can get the disgust level up, so that white Anglo-Saxons go wrath.
Yeah.
To go after. So this is the transition, and this is why they killed Charlie Kirk, because who would have been a calm, mellow voice saying we got to do what we got to do to defend ourselves, but we're not going to do that. It would have been Charlie Kirk.
Well, yeah. So, but I think that much of the audience may not understand the methodology of this trans business. So they what they'll do now is, once you get somebody to, like, say they're trans, and now they're going to start going on all kinds of psychoactive medications, and they're if you ask me. If somebody were to continue to think that, especially once they get on those medications, they're probably going to be mentally unstable to begin with. And if they weren't, they are now. And so when you have somebody like that, then they're going to go through their surgeries and be on who knows what kind of drugs, even if they don't go through the surgeries. Now you have mentally unstable people being told that they're being genocided, because that's what they're being told.
Correct. Well, with masculine,
what do you think,
male physicality. Yeah.
Yeah, and you talk about this business of the wrong, like the insane violence that comes out of high estrogen males, will tell that same mentally unstable person that someone's trying to kill them, and how you think they're going to react.
That's exactly the case. And they're expendable, they're disposables, they're expendable. They were created specifically for this purpose. And you don't even have to do any of the SSRIs, etc. You just pump them full of estrogen. That right there is by far more insanity driving. The other thing is also for females, right? Because what do they do with the females on the other side of the trans? They pump them full of testosterone.
Yeah.
Okay. And what does that do? So when you have heavy, so estrogen converts into testosterone, right? So in their bodies, they're getting that testosterone, which is supposed to be downregulating or giving them the flood of testosterone for a fight, right? But they're not getting the reduction in the estrogen. So they're violent as well.
Well, testosterone will convert over to estrogen too if you have an excess of testosterone.
Correct. So, well, in certain, estradiol and other things. Yeah. So point being is that for these folks, quite aside from the SSRIs they're already on, and most of them self-medicate with other drugs as well, which mix and all of it, they're violently, criminally insane. And they'll try to recruit and create as many as they can, but that mostly has been done. That damage has been done. Now everything shifts to disgust, right? And the Marxist elements that have been created over the last 40 years get killed and slaughtered. And they do a lot of damage, and they do a lot of violence, and, they serve their final purpose before they're, led one way or another to their execution. All of it is to drive towards this ethno-purist nationalism. And initially it won't be race-based, right? Because it's, we're going against the crazies and the ones trying to tear our country down, and then it'll shape up into Marxist, and they'll go for that, right? And then it starts getting to to the more purity kind of things. That's the model.
Yeah.
And it works incredibly well. The problem that Germanic peoples have, Scandinavian Germanic, English speaking peoples, but also the Western Germania and Scandinavia, etc., is that we are susceptible to the ethno-nationalist stuff. Because historically we had to be. And so we are susceptible to it. We're not as susceptible to the Marxism. That's the other folks from other parts of the world, etc. And we instinctively despise that stuff. Our disgust mechanisms are very high because historically, in the parts of the world where we come from, you had to have very tight, cohesive communities or you didn't make it through the winter. And anything that would be an internal threat behaviorally through the long winter or the growing season was something that had to be rooted out and destroyed. So we don't like the Marx. Instinctively, our disgust mechanisms are tailored to destroy any of this kind of insanity because it's a threat to us. However, that makes us susceptible to the higher level of organization, cohesiveness, use of force and all of this other stuff. Well, I don't want to say use of force, but, use of force and violence to purify and cleanse and clean and all of that.
You'd almost say like use of any means necessary would probably
any means necessary.
Yeah. No, that's
but more direct, more the Germanic, English, Scandinavian peoples, which are all kind of a mix of the same, were more direct.
Didn't the Saxons not even breed with other groups there as a rule? Like, didn't mean they didn't do it, but that was kind of one of the rules.
Yeah, mostly only in the upper classes. And that's the same today. You'll find most upper class peoples in every part of the world don't mix outside not just their social class, but outside their collective group.
Switching gears a little bit, I don't know if you guys saw this, but now the ATF and FBI has come forward and they've either this is a dead giveaway. This is from Steven Crowder, who I think is a plant himself. Breaking and why is the ATF and FBI leaking this through Crowder? That just tells you who Crowder really is. He's an informant. Breaking, FBI just corroborated multiple details, including weapon was a high-powered bolt-action rifle, 30-06. Weapon was found in a wooded area. FBI is conducting forensic investigation. It's saying that the ATF DHS is now reporting the cold-blooded killer of Charlie Kirk is another psychotic trans activist. Now they're pushing that. Why? Because the rifle and the ammunition.
Yes.
Look at that. The rifle and the ammunition found on the rooftop where the assassination took the shot was inscribed with radical trans language. Oh, my. If this is not so stupid and low IQ, I don't know what is, man.
Yes.
Wait, so they found a rifle on the rooftop. Yes.
They say they did. They say they did.
They say they did, but now they're talking about a rifle they found like in the forest
woods
or something.
So which one is it, right?
Yeah,
so,
why?
But the point is this: irrespective of how sloppy their fucking narrative is, irrespective of that, the messaging that is being pushed right now, it's a crazy trans activist, hot on the heels of what occurred in Minnesota, right? Where this guy was inscribing all sorts of stuff on his ammo and on his cartridges and whatnot.
Yeah.
Now it's we're finding the same thing here. It's definitely trans activist, bro. Trans activist, 30-06, 200 plus yards, perfect hit, one shot, one kill with a clean exfil. It's a trans activist, my ass.
And a private jet with ability to turn off and on transponder.
Yeah, is that
right?
Well, I mean, come on, Ian. There's plenty of private jets that flying around with transponders turned off. It's totally normal.
Is it? I don't think you're going to find a 30-06 very commonly suppressed. That doesn't sound like a weapon that people are really suppressing to. Because I believe that whatever hit Charlie Kirk.
It could be anything. It could be I think the Marine. It's a sniper rifle that the Marines use most likely, right? Who cares? But it could be anything. The point is the messaging, right?
Correct.
The messaging is the point. Don't worry about the
details,
the ingredients and the details of the sausage. Just look at the sausage they're trying to serve everyone. right?
You're
That's
always trying to
exactly-
tell me to look
They're
at
pushing that
sausage
narrative.
meat. That's weird.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
A trans sausage at that.
Oh, yeah. Look at this trans sausage.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
cruel. No, but V, you bring it back perfectly. I mean, this is exactly what they're doing. They are feeding the disgust mechanisms.
Yep.
One of these killed our guy, right?
Yep.
They
Yeah.
did this whole trans thing on purpose to do this very thing, right?
Yep.
So, and it's not just the trans; it's beyond that as well, right? They've got the black criminals and et cetera. And I feel horrible for the black community because unfortunately, some bad shit's coming. And I've served with some pretty damn good black guys. I've served some damn good Hispanic guys, Asian guys, et cetera. And I've even, as hard as it is to say, I've served with some pretty damn good Muslim guys too, right? Of course, most all of them are dead. In fact, virtually everybody I served with is already dead, right? Because they were targeted, assassinated, and all that other stuff once we were gone or left. But again, V, you brought it right back. This is exactly right. It was one of those that killed our guy.
Yep.
We got to kill them. Now, what's going to wind up happening is they will dramatically overinflate the number of trans in the community. You're already seeing it. You're seeing these little subtle things that pop up about the number of Americans that self-identify as trans or LGBTQ, right? That's what that's all about. That's about conflating or overinflating the degree of the threat in America, because now we've got 7 or 8% of these people we got to kill. 7 or 8% of these people are our enemies, right? That's how this game is played. They must collapse the United States.
Yeah.
They must. They failed to collapse Russia in the late 90s to early 2000s. They failed to collapse China in the 2010s. They're failing still with Russia and China. They have to collapse the United States because they cannot afford for the United States to get taken, to stabilize, gain its actual full independence from the financialist, and then join in a block with Russia and China.
Yep. That's a nightmare scenario for them.
It is the worst thing that could happen for them.
Yep.
Well, I don't think America is going anywhere. I think there's going to be a collapse economically, and I think there's going to be some problems, but I don't think America is going to go anywhere.
I don't think we can say that yet. I think we need to be very careful. We need to not underestimate how sophisticated the enemy is, how long they've been preparing, how much resources and assets and people and everything that they've been putting in place. We have to understand something. Without the United States, their entire 1,000-year-on system collapses in its own debt, because without the United States and its ability to force project across South and Monroe, right? Monroe Doctrine, right? Western Hemisphere,
right?
But if the United States, Canada, and South and Central America were taken off the table because the United States was force protecting there, Russia is force protecting Russia and Central Asia. China is force projecting Far East and Southeast Asia, a little bit into not so much South. The only other place where there are raw materials, land, and resources is Africa, and that's proven over the last couple of centuries to be nearly impossible to build up like the West, to build up as industrial centers, et cetera. And the Africans are starting to stand up, and the Africans are probably going to take Africa off the table for them as well. What it means is they have nothing left to steal.
Yeah.
They cannot steal any more lands. They cannot use large armies of radicalized young men to go out and, attack others to steal their lands. And that 1,000-year Venetian system become Amsterdam, become City of London, try to become Wall Street, etc., collapses. That's what's at stake. So don't think for a second that we know exactly what's going, because that's the extent of the enemy. They have brought down empires. They have brought down kingdoms. They created nation states. Now they're collapsing nation states.
Correct. And this
Right?
is why, yeah, I'm with you on that regard. That's why what we said. It's like, look, civilization is important, right? That's why the civilizations that have
Everything.
stood the test of time.
Yeah.
Look at the Chinese, 5,000-year civilizational power.
Yes.
Russia,
Yes.
1,000-year civilizational state, right?
That's
if
right.
we're not careful with the stupid shit that we're doing here in the United States, there's no guarantee we'll be around in 100 years, man. We could be a whole new landmass with all new countries built up within it.
If
Okay, that's the reality of it. Look, because a lot of people just look at the economic collapse thing, but when you look at the most vital thing that can sustain you, it's community, it's civilization, it's identity, and it's affinity. Okay, and then depending on how bad or not so bad things get, that's all depending on how good your supply chains are, all these other things. If we delve bad enough, things could really come apart. There's no guarantee we'll be here another 100 years. There's no guarantee of that whatsoever.
There is one way to guarantee it. One.
Yeah.
That's why they just killed. It's why they killed Charlie Kirk. Yep. The high ground, the only actual asset, I think we touched on this last night, but and I've written articles on it. The only hard asset is young men who stand and fight for their land. It's the only asset. And if you're going to try and steal those lands, the non-manpower, the non-human terrain, you have to kill the young men. And you have to do it either in their own lands. And if you can't do that, you've got to draw them into a foreign war. This is what they just did to the Ukrainian young men. So that two sides to that. There's two sides. We've got to remember the Ukrainians are Slavs, predominantly Slavs. So are the Russians, right?
Right.
So what they have done in the Ukraine is kill the young men who could stand and defend and hold the lands of Ukraine. Now the lands of Ukraine, which I think Russia is going to deny the financial ability to physically take possession of Ukraine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But what they also did is they removed from Russia, if they were to get the Americans or the Indians or the Chinese or whatever to go at war with the Russians, they've just taken, by killing roughly close to 2 million Ukrainian young men, they've just removed 2 million young men to go fight with Russia against foreign invaders.
Yeah, they see Slavs as one group, and they see them all as future Russians.
So that's exactly right. So when Victoria Nuland and whatever the hell these idiots are in Congress, et cetera, are saying, well, it's a good expense, we're killing Russians, they mean the Ukrainians, because the Ukrainians are Russians, right? And so they just, and there's 100,000 plus.
I thought Ukrainians descended from a far-flung space colonizing race of aliens, and they came in. They are just these amazing people.
Yeah, well, it was a Slavic race of aliens then. Space Slavs.
Space Slavs. It's the sequel to Space Jews that David Chappelle was talking about.
Right?
Oh,
and I don't mean that as a diminutive of Slavs at all, right? I'm not
Slavs
one of
are
these
great.
that have this,
I married one.
Yeah. So, but again, the only way in which we survive is our young men don't get radicalized and don't get slaughtered in big numbers. And more importantly, that happens, but they stay here in our own lands and don't get drawn into a war in some other part of the world. The high ground right now, right? The high ground that has to be taken, and is why they killed Charlie Kirk, is the young men.
Yeah.
The enemy knows it. The enemy is all about demoralizing, destroying, right? Radicalizing the young men. They openly state it. Now they shift gears from, demoralization and Marxist destruction to moralization and disgust, right? Purity. People will do extraordinary things when they're trying to get their hands clean of blood, right? Extraordinary things. right? Disgust is
Mhm.
powerful, powerful weapon, and women know how to use it against men. Estrogens know how to use our disgust to get us to do all kinds of things. Well, we can't do it now. We're going to have to fight. They're infiltrated everywhere. Everywhere. They're ludicrously sophisticated at what they do. They've got $100 trillion offshore war chest
Yeah,
that they can burn through. They could throw unlimited tens of millions of the world's trash at us. It's really right until we start putting belt feds on our beaches. And, I really want to hear that Elon SpaceX got a secret program, which is ODST, the orbital dropship troopers, right?
Yeah.
So we can rapid drop, troops into, but, until, I think the fast boat shooting was a straight up message to, the cartels and the intelligence community. Yeah, we're ready to start using military assets to just kill them.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right. So, but point being is that we have something in North America that Europe doesn't have and the United Kingdom doesn't have. And that is that we have two giant oceans. And Davy Jones is hungry.
Davy Jones's locker.
Davy Jones is hungry,
Yeah.
right? His locker is a little shy. We haven't had a big naval war, lots of people dying in the sea for a while, right?
Might have to feed the ocean some resentfuls.
That's right. We might have to fill up the abyssal plains. So, but the point being is that let's not underestimate the enemy. We know what their playbook is. They've used it before, and not in some remote history, but just a century ago. They used it to extreme success. It's the very same people here, not people who read about it in a book, but I mean the sons and grandsons and daughters and granddaughters of, right? Same people. They know us extraordinarily well. They're riddled throughout. People really need to look at how bad we are infiltrated, even in small communities, at city councils, police departments, sheriff's departments, court systems, state level. I mean, we are riddled everywhere. This rot is everywhere.
Oh, even in a small a place as Sandpoint. I know somebody who was up there. And for those of you who know, Sandpoint is north in Idaho. It's above Coeur d'Alene. I think it's kind of well-to-do a little bit.
Yeah.
Very small community. And I know somebody very close to somebody who was up there for almost 10 years. And he saw them infiltrate. Some guy they send into town. He had like dreadlocks. He came from probably Oregon or something. I don't know. And it wasn't too long before they cleaned him up and ended up putting him on the city council. And, he's a full-on leftard. That's infiltration. That's not. He didn't just. Guys like that don't just show up to town and end up in city council 2 years later. That didn't happen.
Didn't even happen with John Rambo.
John Rambo.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the point is that Nick, to what you're saying, and V, in support of what you're saying, let's not underestimate the enemy. Where they're going now is to disgust, and disgust works, and they can get a lot of young men remoralized by giving them a target. And the target is, again, driven by the disgust mechanisms, the purity mechanisms that are wired into us. Initially, Nick, to your point, it's not ethno-nationalist. It's, gender confused or sane, insane, whatever it is, right? But the first target, which is so obvious, is the trans. And that's exactly, V, what you were talking about, this whole agenda. I saw it, last night when they said that it was a trans person, et cetera. Of course, that was it.
Of course.
Right? But that's the way it starts. And then it goes from there and it broadens out to the whole LGBT community. Then it goes to the violent thug community, so that gets us over to ethno stuff with the blacks and, the criminal blacks. For me, I don't want to, call out blacks writ large. But it's what gets it closer to the ethno stuff, right? And then you got the cartels. And so now you go for the Hispanics, right? And it just goes from there. And what are they doing? Well, first, what they're doing is they're taking out all of their useful idiots that they don't need anymore. And they don't actually want on the field of play because they're a threat, right? In a Marxist revolution, once the revolution is successful, who are the first people who are shot?
Yeah, the zealots.
The zealots.
They go to the gulag
The
first.
actual Marxist.
Yeah.
The ones that are, in a Marxist revolution, when it's successful, the first ones shot are the Marxists.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, because they don't get the utopia they were promised. They realize they've been used.
Correct.
And then they're very dangerous at that point because they were zealots in the first place.
Correct. And to your point, Nick, that you said earlier, they're all insane.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
You got to be
They're
insane
to even believe in that shit in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the ones you take out and shoot first, and then that's what starts getting you into the ethno stuff, etc. And then what did they do, right? And then you've got all the legal stuff and the court stuff. And so we're going to have to do a job here in the United States at every scale and every level. Thousands and thousands of cities and towns and communities, counties, all of it. We're going to have to rip this rot out. And let's not think right now that we're going to succeed in that. We might. We got possible good opportunities. We might not, because we have immense forces that have 1,000-year system Ponzi scheme, basically, and they want that Ponzi scheme to continue. But that requires the death of millions of American men.
I had a thought about, we were talking about how this is not an ethno thing. It's not going to go that direction here. And I actually thought about this last night because I'm looking on X and they're trying to twist it all up. They're fanning the race war flames.
Yeah,
I mean, it's getting...
That's what I just said, though. That's what I just said. It starts with the trans stuff, but then it starts moving into the black crime stuff. Now we're going to blacks.
Yeah.
Start shifting to the cartels and human trafficking, and now that gets us the Hispanics and some of the Caribbeans and some of the Africans. The African.
See, where I was going to go with that was the rot that you're talking about that must needs be excised, to use old language. So. What I've noticed, my friends who are in the military, I never served. So, we know you're Green Beret. My friends in the military they're the ones I remember being like the least racist because they would serve together. And so you would serve with like all different kinds, right? And then you become friends and brothers, and it's a little hard to become like to be racist in that scenario where you're defending each other's lives. And so what they've done now, as you probably know better than I do here, they have eviscerated a lot of the leadership in the military. I think mostly under Obama, when they got rid of all those generals. The American first generals are all gone, and they're putting in all the trans and everything else. And it seems to me that's another place where the rot must be like completely taken away in the military, because that in a certain sense, just there's a fair amount of people who go through the military. And when you don't have that element of society who is able to remain cohesive despite being like different color skin and stuff like that, that's just another place where they can isolate the races for when they eventually want to go down that route to twist people against each other.
No. So and great observation. So that's why Hegseth was brought in. That's why a major was put there as the Secretary of Defense, now Secretary of War, right? It's why Tulsi Gabbard, it's why Joe Kent, right? Whole younger generation, my generation, and Xers and millennials, right? Yes, it started actually under Bush. It accelerated under Obama and continued, and it went way down below. It went all the way down to the level of majors and lieutenant colonels. Okay. And key strategic commands, et cetera, but it's also riddled throughout the National Guard and the reserves. And so it's all over the country and the states as well. Give me a second. I would not count on the military.
No,
not yet. Right. But where my greater concern is because this fight now is in America. It's in the United States. This is what happens in the English civilization, again, going all the way back to 4480. We go into a civil war every 400 years. Right. Some kind of brother on brother fight every 400 years for almost 2,000 years. Okay. And maybe even before, we just don't have the records for it. Right. So give me a second. The bigger problem, so Hegseth and others are cleaning up the military. Part of the change to the Department of War is to try and attract young people into the military, et cetera. The problem is the rot there goes so deep and is so infiltrated for so long. It's in all the training materials. It's in everything.
Yeah.
And to their credit, as they're finding some rebellious, Marxist freaking, officer or enlisted person doing something with their office, they're removing them as fast as they can, but there's so many of them. And again, it's in all the training materials, even back in, I left active duty in 15. I left the Guard 20th group in 19. It's riddled through everything. And so that's a Herculean lift. It's happening. It's a Herculean lift. And then it's got to happen in the Guard and reserve levels as well. Where we need to be more concerned now is in law enforcement, sheriff's departments, police departments, FBI, of course. FBI is just trash. And
they're a joke at this point.
They're trash. But I mean, the guy who built them
he was also trash.
He was trash. The whole thing was built that way on purpose. Now, he didn't start it, but I mean, he's the one. The only reason we have the FBI still with us today is because of J. Edgar Hoover. And why? Because he was resentful, and he gave the resentfuls a weapon, right? So the DOJ is riddled through. Good stuff's happening there, though, I must admit, under Bondi, restoration of constitutionality and all of that, calling out judges. There's a lot of good work happening there. But the point being is where I am more concerned is less about Title X military assets. That's getting worked on. It's going to take some years. Where I'm very concerned is law enforcement at city, county, and state levels, because those are utterly infiltrated. Like we just had this, Nick, remember we had the shooting up here in northern Idaho, right? And the sheriff's trained by the Mossad.
Yeah, and I think wasn't he one of the same
from there?
Is he the same sheriff that was involved in like Vegas and Hawaii?
Yeah.
And yeah. This guy's
northern Idaho.
He just keeps popping up everywhere.
He's popping up.
He's a crisis actor. That's why.
Yeah, there's like 9 people and their dog that live in northern Idaho. Why is this guy up there?
I come from there. I didn't come from there, but I lived up there when I was younger, and I still got friends. My biological mother still was up in northern Idaho, right? I know the area well. But yeah, why the hell is the guy there?
In such a sparsely populated area? No, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, it does make sense.
Reason.
That's right. Well, it makes sense on one side.
Right.
There's a disproportionate number of Viking Scandinavians in this part of the world, and a high density of current and former special operations and intelligence guys that live in this whole western Montana, Idaho, eastern Oregon, Washington, right? Down to Utah a little bit, northern. So there is a disproportionate number of retirees and current special, if you were worried about a group of people that were in a fortress part of the country, because that's what this Mountain West is. It is a geographic fortress, like Clay writes about in Wrath of the Wendigo, right? I think he calls it Cascadia. And it goes all the way up into Canada, Alberta and British Columbia. I might infiltrate law enforcement. The enemy, if I was resentful and I was one of the financialists, I would infiltrate law enforcement up there. I put a lot of money and effort into making sure that I get my sheriffs and, particularly the sheriffs, because they're the ones with assay into everything and everybody. I'd put a lot of energy and effort into doing that, because I'd be worried about that. If I was going to take the country to a civil war and a collapse that could possibly become a revolution, I'd be really concerned about this part of the world. It's the same thing we see here in, the Boise area, Ada County, et cetera, right? Where they've brought in Californians and they brought in outsiders, and
those damn Californians moving to Idaho.
I know, we ruin it for everybody. Some of us have roots up here in this part of the world too, though, right? So, and a lot of my school day friends, because I finished high school here, I did my last 2 years of high school in this area, and then I lived up north in the Orofino area when I was younger, and so I've got a lot of my friends, well, the ones that are still alive, they're 3rd, 4th, 5th, 7th generation Idahoans, right?
Yeah, but we chose to live in Adafornia.
It wasn't like this when I was in high school. It's fundamentally different. Actually, I used to be able to ride my horse where my house is now. So I'm not quite that old. But okay, back to the point, right? Back to the thing. They targeted Charlie Kirk specifically because he's the moderate voice. And as they shift towards disgust and purity, so that they can get the next, move towards the Reich from the Marx, right? As they do that, Charlie Kirk would have been one of the major voices of, think about this. Look at what they're doing, young men. And so they had to kill him. And they had to do it in such a public forum that demoralizes, but it's setting up this radicalization. And why are they setting up the radicalization? They have to kill millions of American young men so that they can take the land. The only way their 100-year, 40-year, whatever the hell you want to scale, you look at it, plan works is if the young men are not on the land to fight for it.
Yeah. Bloodshed is coming either way.
It's already started.
Either way. It's already started. Correct.
Yeah, we saw it yesterday on freaking live TV.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Literal blood.
And we're living in a time where billionaires are mysteriously dropping dead. Their yachts are being sunk with them in it. Their private jets are falling out of the sky with
their homemade submarines are sinking.
Yeah. A lot of weird shit. Guys are drowning in their bathtubs in 3 inches of water. Like it's wild.
Or shooting themselves, committing suicide by shooting themselves in the back of the head.
4 times.
4 times. Yeah. So we are in oligarch war now.
We are.
Right. And
this is what people need to understand. It's here. It's coming.
Oh, and it's been going on.
Yeah.
So there was a Rothschild. David Rothschild died suddenly of a heart attack back in 2020. Never had a history of heart issue.
Never.
Right. There was Ray Dalio's middle son was hit and run in a car. That didn't kill him.
We had a Rothschild also. This was a few years ago as well. I think it was 2020 or 2021. His private plane crashed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
they've been taking each other out for a while. They've been taking out their supports. I mean, if we go back to about 2015, 2016, and you look around the oligarchs, there's several thousand people that have been killed in the last 10 years in and around the oligarchs. They've been at war.
Yeah.
Now it's spilling out as it always does. Right. And we don't know exactly how that's going to go. What we do know is this, though. Whatever their plan and agenda is, no matter who comes out, their ultimate final win cannot happen if they don't have the young men to go and kill and die in vast numbers. Right. So the young men need to train, need to prepare, need to do all the right things. They need to not get into a place of disgust. We can be angry. We can be disgusted. We can be, righteous and know that we've got shit we got to do, but don't get into a place of hate and disgust because that's how they control us. And we need to realize that we have to stand and fight on our own lands, our own towns, our own communities, because that is the only thing that defends, protects, secures anything. If you go die somewhere else in some other land, now if it's a neighboring community or whatever, got it, right? And it's in defense of you. But getting young American men to go into a slaughter like the Ukrainian young men did will do the exact same thing. It will just murder all the young men, and your homes and everything that you think you're fighting for is just going to be taken when you're dead. Yeah. Stand and fight, prepare to fight, stand to fight if you must, but don't get into disgust, don't get into hate, and realize that you are the only asset of your community, and you need to stay in your community and be that asset. Their whole plan, no matter how sophisticated, how complex, no matter if they put a whole $100 trillion in it, if they send 200 million freaking people here, right, and flood us, it doesn't work if we stand and hold our land. And it's way easier to stand and hold land than it is to go take somebody else's.
Yeah, very well said. EM, thank you so much, man, for coming on again. And we look forward to having you on again next week. And folks, there's a lot of heavy stuff here. A lot of heavy stuff. Go back and listen to it again. Have your dark roast ready, your notebook next to you, and take some notes. Whether we like it or not, this is the reality. We're hurtling to this reality. And this is what people need to understand. It's like there's no trust the plan here. There's no white knights. There's no white hats. There's no magical 5D chess being played by Trump that's going to save us from what's coming.
No,
it's inevitable. When we historically start matching all the signs and all the red flags that are being thrown up right now, we're not escaping what has always happened. We're not exempt from it. We don't get a one-day pass to escape it. We're hurtling towards this. And what we do as a nation, what we do as a country, what we do as a civilization is what's going to determine how we come out on the other side of this oligarchical war.
Absolutely.
EM, thank you so much, man.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Take care.
Take care.
Cheers.